Hi, I'm Stephen Hand from Archery Supplies, and today I want to talk about inflation. And I've probably done videos before talking about inflation, but the reason I want to discuss it is because it affects your ability to run a business, and it affects your sense of being wealthy versus being poor. So I want to discuss this. Now, one of my friends in America, Nathan, said you shouldn't get rich through inflation. It shouldn't be a thing for a business. It shouldn't be a business model that you get rich through inflation. You should get rich through working. And I thought about this when he said it, and I didn't actually comment because I had to think about that, because it's always been my belief that things go up in value, so I own it for a long time, and that's where my wealth comes from. Okay, always thought that. My dad's house was $14,000. He sold it for, then it sold for 140. Then it sold for 700,000, right? So I'm like, that's how you get rich, right? So I want to talk a little bit about it. So, inflation in Australia. It says through reporting that our inflation rate's about 3%, and I'll pull it up on the screen what it says it is, because it's a bullshit number, so I don't even worry what it is because I think it's bullshit, okay? Now, all my friends who vote Labor, just like doing this video, and why do I look away? I'm like, if you think inflation is 3%, then good on you. And my sisters say to me, why do you care about this stuff? And I go, because I'm getting poorer. I'm getting poorer. And they're like, no, you're not, because everything's paid off. So then I've got to think about this, and this is my purpose of doing this video. So first thing I want to look at is inflation being 3%. So what I want to look at is the local suburbs where I live. So my dad's house was $14,000. He sold it for, and I'm not even going to go back there because people are going to say, well, it doesn't matter. Let's look at the last 5 years of that suburb. That suburb is Morphett Vale. It's basically where my shop is. It's where I grew up. So back 5 years ago, you could buy a house there for $300,000. Now it's going to cost you $680,000. So the inflation rate is clearly not 3%, because 3% you wouldn't even notice, and life would feel normal, and I wouldn't be feeling the stress I feel today. Okay? So last year, the houses in Morphett Vale went up by, number off the top of my head, 23%. And you're going to think, well, this is just Morphett Vale. You pick something out of the normal. Okay, so let's pick where I was born, Christie's Downs. Christie's Downs, when I moved here 10 years ago, back to Adelaide, you could buy a house in Christie's Downs for $100,000, and let's say my salary was $50,000, so $1,000 a week. I could buy a house, a pretty crappy house, for 2 years worth of salary. And I told all my staff to do so, right? Well, I'm going to pull up their graph on Christie's Downs. So 5 years ago, the house in Christie's Downs was, I think, $220,000 from memory, and now it's about $650,000. So that's gone up around 25% per year. So to me, inflation is running at around 25% per year. Your rent's gone up by 25% per year. Your rates have gone up, your insurance has gone up, and my rates have gone up by 20%, okay? Because people go, why are you putting up rent? Well, it's because my insurance went up, my rates went up, my costs all went up, okay? And the market allows it, okay? You can only rent a place at a property for what the market will allow, okay? So things have gone up. The shop where I am has gone up. The shop next to me that I own, the rent there was $400 a week. The new tenant is $800 a week. Okay, he left when it was $400 a week and said, "Oh, that's a bit expensive. $400 a week for a huge building." And the new person who moved in, we didn't even advertise it. We had 5 people asking about it, and the real estate agent said we can get $800, and we got $800 straight away. So double. Okay, so why is this an issue? Okay, so I had to think about this. It's an issue because my wage hasn't gone up. My workers' wages, yes, they've gone up, but by a little bit. So their ability to buy a house, their ability to rent, has decreased because of this inflation. So you become poorer. So the average house, let's say in Adelaide now, one of the most expensive cities in the world, is $1 million. So let's say the average wage is $100,000, $2,000 a week. But if you're an average worker, like a retail worker, you're probably on closer to $50,000 a week. So if you're on $50,000 a week, it's 20 years work. You've got to work for 20 years before you can own that place. But no, hang on, it's worse than that, because that's if you saved everything. You can't save everything because you've got to pay for rent, you've got to pay for rates, you've got to pay for everything, you've got to pay for food. So literally you've got to work forever to never pay off an average house in this state. So this got me thinking. It got me thinking that businesses are unaffordable. I'm going to say my sister's been in business for 30 years. They're looking to get out of business. And the idea is to join the public service, which I used to joke about, because I'd say your dream job is a job in the public service. And because the public service, the wages go up all the time. Okay? So for me, I was thinking, well, it doesn't make sense. If I had a choice now to set up an archery shop in this state, so 10 years ago when I moved to this state, houses were cheap, commercial properties were cheap, they were affordable to rent, they were affordable to buy. So I was like, well, this is a good spot to move to. Now housing is expensive, one of the top 6 cities in the world as far as expense. It's not affordable to have a business to rent like mine because the costs are all so high. The costs of doing business is all, when I say so high, power, wages have doubled. My profit margin has not doubled. For you to increase your profit in a business, it means you need to double your margins. Now, I've done these videos before. We've been in the archery business for 40 odd years. Margins have decreased in 40 years, not increased. Okay? So when a person comes in and goes, I want to buy a bow, I've got $200 to spend, which is my average client. I go, great, I'm going to make 20 bucks on this bow. And I'm going to be with the person for probably 2 hours. So I'm going to make 10 bucks an hour. Now, if my staff are doing that sale, they're earning 40 bucks an hour. So I'm actually minus $60. Okay, so now it's got this whole thing about customer service versus expenses. Because before you used to offer lots of customer service and now you can't because labour costs are so high. Okay, so people want lots of customer service, but they don't want to pay for it. And basically the costs of providing that service is now too high because wages are too high. Okay. So then I was thinking, I saw lots of people moving to different countries around the world. Okay, so I was like, because we're told in Australia through our TV, we're told this is like this everywhere in the world. Now I didn't used to question things like I do today, but today I question things a lot. And I was like, well, is it like this everywhere around the world, or is it just me? Have I gone crazy? Okay, because I think, have I gone crazy? Am I just in a circle of everyone who's crazy, right? Because it seems to me a lot of the archers, a lot of the people I associate with have similar views. So, and yet 80% of people voted, we want more of this, we want more inflation, we want more debt, we want more handouts. Okay, so that's what we voted for. Like every seat voted for this. So I'm trying to work this out, going, well, so you want more inflation, you want to never be able to buy a house? I don't understand. So I looked up countries around the world. I looked up countries to move to, and while I shoot, I watch videos. So I generally shoot, let's say for 2 hours, I watch videos for 2 hours on a TV, and I sit there and I try and learn stuff. So I was like, well, if I move to America, how would I be? What's the cost of housing? What's the cost of owning a shop? What's the cost of owning a business? And is different states different in America? And the answer is yes, different states are different in America. So from what I looked at, and I'm going to say the Republican seats, and that's not me being thing, I wouldn't own a business in California. It just didn't make any sense. The cost of housing is too high, the costs are too high, cost of owning a business is too high. I would own a business, an archery business, in the traditional seats, I'm going to say the Republican seats, where people have got more traditional values, where there's hunting, where people are more traditional, old school. That's where I'd set up. Now, in those states, housing's cheap, rent's cheap, to buy a building's cheap, there's labour's cheaper than here, like substantially cheaper than here, so I can run a business. So it's profitable. You can run a business. So if you're hearing this video and you're in one of those states, it makes sense to me to run a business, and I'd be going, well, okay, I can go full hog and expand a business because my costs are okay. And what I'm saying, in Australia, the costs have blown out, and now things are very questionable to me. So then I looked at other parts around the world, other countries, Mexico, Panama, Europe. I looked at Asia, all very good spots to own a business, all very business friendly, all encourage you. Cost of labour's great, cost of housing's great, and the cost of business is great. Cost of power is great. So I'm thinking, well, maybe it's just what Australia's done to itself. So with inflation at, let's just say 25%, I think I brought this. This is the house I bought a year ago. Because I bought this a year ago and I did a video on this house and why I was buying it, because I was worried inflation was going to go up and I didn't want to be left behind, so I bought this. I paid $160,000 for it. I put a new roof and I've been doing it up very slowly, very, very slowly. And so has this place increased by $30,000? So could this place be worth $190,000 right now? I paid $160,000, and the answer is absolutely yes. There's no places cheaper in this state than this house. So I think this house has kept up with the inflation rate. So then I think, well, what else has kept up with inflation? And you're probably going to see videos where I talk about Bitcoin. So I was like, well, what has Bitcoin done for the last year? Bitcoin has done 59% for the last year. So if you own Bitcoin, you've done better than inflation. Now, none of this still makes you feel good, because if you go to sell your Bitcoin, you go to sell this house, I'm going to pay a third of that money to the government in capital gains tax. Now, capital gains tax does not exist in every country. So if you own crypto and you're in certain countries, you don't have to pay capital gains tax when you sell it. So, and my view is, this house here, if I sell it and I give a third of the profit to the government, I haven't actually got richer. I've actually decreased my wealth, because I still, when I bought this house, I had enough money to buy this house. So if I give a third of the profit to the government, I now don't have enough money to rebuy the house, because I've given a third of it to the government. So when everyone goes, yes, the government gave us a $5 pay rise, the government didn't give you a $5 pay rise. What they did is they created mass inflation, massive wealth transfer from the poor people to the wealthy people, because the wealthy people are becoming very wealthy. There are more billionaires in Australia now than ever. Their rates are growing out of sight. And just some rough numbers, off the top of my head, which I'm going to probably be wrong about, the wealthy, the top 10% of the population own 90% of the shares on the share market. The top 10% own, I think it's 70% of the housing. It's something like that. But basically the wealthy are getting very, very wealthy. And they're getting very, very wealthy off this inflation. And the poor people now can no longer afford to buy houses. Their rents are going up. So now instead of buying a house, they live in a room or they live in a tent. So anyway, that was the purpose of this video, to just talk about inflation and just say, well, for me, I think the inflation has been a really, really bad thing. It's on my list of importance. Housing affordability is number one. Nothing else is even close to it. I don't understand anything else. Like, keep life simple. If you can't afford a house, then ask the question why. And people go, oh, it's because of Donald Trump. It's the first thing you hear on the news, or it's because of the Ukraine war. No, it could be because the government's printing tons of money and getting in huge amounts of debt. Or it could be we've imported 46%, we've increased our population by 46% in the last, I think it's 20 years. So we're the highest, Australia's the highest growth rate in the world of population. So anyway, I'm going to leave you with that, and I'm going to say, well, why I have a negative view of business. And if I'm saying that, what I'm saying is that's what it's like for me, but it may not be like that for you. And if I looked at setting up businesses in Mexico, I reckon that would be fantastic. If I looked at setting up businesses in Europe, I'd be like, yes. If I looked at setting up business in Malaysia, I'd be like, yes. Because there's so many more people, the cost of their business, they're business friendly, people want to work, it's not a handout culture. Yeah, so, and what I'm saying is you don't want your country, if you live in one of those countries, to become like Australia, where basically business is not affordable. So anyway, I'll leave you with that. That was just the purpose of this video, because I'm here at this house, and it's a year since I bought it. So I thought it's quite topical. And even though all my properties have gone up and my wealth has, let's say, doubled, yeah, I don't feel wealthier. I felt substantially wealthier when I made my first $1 million, because things were affordable then. It was affordable to buy houses. It was affordable to buy things. And now, yeah, I can buy a TV cheap. How many TVs do you want? I can buy a washing machine cheap, but just seems crazy. And I'm going to say the other thing which has affected this inflation, you would think, well, everyone's got lots of more money to buy expensive bows, because a bow today is substantially cheaper than it was when I was 15 for the amount of hours you had to work to pay for that bow. But what I see is people come in and they want to spend $200 on a bow. And the reason for that is because disposable income has fallen off a cliff in Australia, because rents are high and all the costs of living is high, and people have got less disposable income. They have less time because they've got to work more. People are poorer even though we're given more, if that makes sense, because of this big wealth transfer. Anyway, I'll leave you with that. I probably still sound crazy, but anyway, that's just some numbers. I'm just throwing them up on the screen because everyone goes, oh, it's like this everywhere in the world, and I just get a bit sick of it. I'm just like, no, it's not like this everywhere in the world. It's like this here. We've created this environment, and I'm not having a go. I'm not having a go at Australia. Maybe I am. You know, I was at lunch last weekend with the family. There were 6 girls, and I'm going to say all wealthy girls, mainly all single. And they have a different view. Some have a different view. Some actually have my view, but some say Australia is the greatest place on the earth to live. And I always find that interesting, because let's say they earn $800,000 a year. 800,000 a year, so that's 1,000 a week, that's 10,000 a week, 15,000 a week they earn, and they live in a $7 to $10 million house. They have a high disposable income, all their friends are wealthy. They live in a nice bubble. Everything they see is nice. They have nice holidays, they're dressed nicely, they communicate with nice people, they don't have a business to run, they just get their salary, and that's not me having a go at them, they just get their salary, and it's like, and I understand they do big contracts, you know, where they deal big numbers, like $15 million contracts they deal. But it's not their personal money. It's not their personal wealth which is on the line. It's your personal wealth which is on the line when you own a business. So it's like you've got to throw your whole house all your assets behind to make a risk and hope it pays off. That's very different. It's like when I buy stock, I've got to go, well, instead of buying Bitcoin, instead of buying a property, instead of taking a holiday, I've got to buy stock and hope I make money with it. And sometimes I don't. Sometimes I lose. Anyway, so depending where you are and your environments and your circles, you might go, this is fantastic. Life is great. Everyone is wealthy in Australia. Australia has never been better off. And certainly if you're getting government benefits where you don't have to work, you probably feel that way, that life is great because you live at home, or government provides you housing and government provides you everything. Maybe life is great. I don't understand that world. I understand the world where I had to struggle and I had to work 2 jobs, and I don't get any government handouts, never have. I'm going to say I never will. But anyway, I'm going to leave it there. So that's just my take on inflation and how much is going up and how the government lies about what the capital CPI, what the index is, and how that index changes year to year to manipulate the numbers to fool the Australian public on how much things are going up, because that's what they do. Instead of keeping the same basket, they change the basket. Well, I think in Australia's sense, I think they took housing out of the basket where it used to be in the basket. They took it out because they're like, oh, that's the same. No, it's not. I think the Australians spend 76% of their income on housing. It's the biggest in the world. We spend 3 times as much as the USA on housing. It's just a number, like, because if you went, our houses are 3 times that of America's, that will make sense. If you dropped our prices by a third, I'm back with you. I'm back with, like, this is now an environment for business. It's an environment where you can do up things. At the moment, it's like try and catch up, try and keep up. And that's really, really hard at growth rates of 25% a year, where you've got to increase your wealth by 25% a year just to keep up with inflation. I can't imagine what Argentina and all those countries that had hyperinflation, but that's certainly what it feels like to me in Australia. Anyway, I'm Stephen Hand from Archery Supplies. Thanks for watching.